and this is Weaponized. There are people that are working in the intelligence community at even three-letter agencies that want to come forward, but they are locked into their job, their careers, depending on it. They definitely can't say anything that's classified, especially to a journalist or something like that. But in the right setting, they can tell the whole story. And so getting them in there to talk is the key. And I think they'll be encouraged if they see how David Grush, how his whistleblowing, how that's handled. And also, it's always encouraging to see people come forward on camera and talk about their direct experience.
Well, you know, I guess if we really want to know the lowdown on when and where hearings, the next set of hearings will be conducted, we should probably reach out to that fire-breathing member of Congress named Tim Burchett.
Oh, yeah. Tim Burchett, man. He is a warrior for UFO truth. Absolutely transparency. He does not want this cover-up anymore. I would love to talk with him. You think we can get him on the phone?
We should do it right now.
Okay. Hey there. Can you see us?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Oh, perfect, man. You see our studio?
That's very cool. It's a big honor. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here, man. So we got about 15 minutes with you, I hear, so we want to dive into it.
You know, there are a lot of people on Capitol Hill that are talking about UFOs these days. I don't think there's a more fiery or outspoken advocate for UAP disclosure than you. Can you tell us about, we've been hearing rumblings about hearings. Can you tell us what the status of House hearings are and what you would hope to accomplish in that?
Yeah, and we're hoping to have them around the end of July. Of course, you have to realize that that the committee, the chairman will set the date, of course, and I'm leery of exposing too many of the people that we'd like to have in, just because in the past, as you know, they get demonized in the press, and you know they'll pull their third grade teacher out and they'll say, "Oh, he cheated in math," you know, or something. And New York Times, one of the New York, maybe not the Times, but maybe with the New York papers will you know, go after them. And but I just want to get to the truth. I want to get to the people. I'm not so much worried. Everybody's like, you need all these bureaucrats in there. I don't want the bureaucrats in there. They're the ones who've been lying to us. I want people who have firsthand knowledge that can talk about some of the incidents that have happened and some of the people that have some credibility within the community as well. But you know, and two, we have to be, as I've been informed by the Chairman Comer, we don't want to. I don't want to talk to the people too much ahead of time. I don't want to I want them to know what's going to happen. I don't want them to be surprised, but I sure as heck don't want to coach them. So I have to be real careful, because I want it to be a pure committee, because it's going to be a bipartisan thing. We're not going to allow partisanship to rear its ugly head. There is no reason for partisanship in this. I have some very close Democrat friends in Congress who we've talked about this issue, and we just don't need it to get into that realm. The American public wants to know, and dadgummit, we deserve to get some truth out there finally.
Can you give us a sense of how, when, and why you got hooked on this subject?
Well, as a young man, I guess a young boy, back when it was, you know, we had what was called public libraries before computers were brought in, and everybody, you know, mom and dad would say, "Look it up." They didn't say Google it, and so, you know, I'd go to the library, and my parents would just leave me there for hours a day sometimes, and I would and there was a table set up, and it had all the stuff that I'm still interested in. You know, it had Bigfoot, it had UFOs, and I was just fascinated by it. I was like, what is this stuff? And you know, I remember I went to a movie to see the Bigfoot. It was supposed to be about Bigfoot and UFOs, and you know, down here at, I think, the Capri Cinema, which is no more. And you know, and then it was about all this other crazy stuff, and it didn't. And then finally they got to UFOs, and it was just a very short segment. It was very disappointing. And you know, remember the old Leonard Nimoy In Search of course, and all that. And you know, and have I ever seen a UFO? No, I have not.
Well, I got a question about that. So you at one point have talked about a meeting that you had in Florida. And what I want to know from you is, have you seen in your position, have you seen credible information, video footage of something from pilots or something that indicates to you there's a technology that's more advanced than what the United States has? We need to figure out what it is. Have you personally seen evidence like that?
I have seen evidence that no one, as a matter of fact, Matt Gaetz said it best, that he has seen evidence that they're of an aircraft, of craft that do not exist on this planet, basically. So yes, absolutely, 100%.
And you personally have seen that. Can you tell me, you've said some public statements about it, can you tell me a little bit about that meeting and why it gave you an unsettling feeling?
Well, they just tried to cover it up. We go down there, and it's myself, Matt Gaetz, and Representative Luna. They're both Florida folks. And I told Matt, I said, we're going to get down there, and they're going to tell us that this thing's going to happen. I mean, that we're going to get to see all this. And we're going to get down there, and they're going to show us a bunch of other stuff. And in fact, that's the way it went down. And they weren't going to show us. And then so we, some calls were made. We were put off into another room, which I'm pretty sure was bugged, and because it had cameras in the ceilings. I mean, it was just, I'd seen something very similar to that when I was in the Middle East. But they, then an hour later, they came back basically and said, "Not sure who you all know, but we're going to bring in what we were told we were going to get briefed by pilots who had seen stuff." And so they finally did, and they brought them back. And, it was just and the pilots, you could tell, were very uneasy. And as I call them, the spooks in the room, the CIA or whoever they were very uneasy about what they were telling us about. And so, and I've been I've been in unclassified things too, where I've literally had people come by the house that wanted to visit me in Washington, but were afraid to, and literally came to my house here in Knoxville and showed me things on video, similar to the Tic Tac videos, and things like that. And, and these people had scientific backgrounds, and they were very credible.
So, but that was a classified meeting that you were in Florida. But I do have a question. Are pilots being discouraged from releasing or putting this information or this video up the chain of command? Do you hear anything about that?
Absolutely, 100%. They claim they have this whistleblower protection, but I don't trust the military. I don't trust the Pentagon as far as I could throw that building. They are, we've been told that they'll actually destroy information or video prior to getting back to the base, because they'll have to be debriefed, as they call it, for 8 hours, which I've been told is more of an interrogation, and it will be put on their record. And this is just, and it's common among these top pilots and to me, that is disgusting. There's an arrogance about that these people in power think that they have over us. And it's just ridiculous, and it drives me crazy. And I just won't put up with it. I'm going to expose it, and they're going to make fun of me and call me a tinfoil hat fool or whatever, and that's fine. But I know what I saw, I know what I've heard, and it's wrong. We've got to get to the bottom of this thing.
As Congress edges closer to finding out if crash retrievals have happened, if reverse engineering special access programs are real, would you expect major pushback from the Pentagon? I mean, they clearly have kept this a secret a long time. Contractors, they have a lot of influence on Capitol Hill. Are they coming after people like you? Are they trying to thwart the committee from getting into the bottom of this?
I feel 100% they are. I feel that there's people in Congress that have been compromised. And I know I'm going to get called on the carpet for this and say who and how do you know this? But, why do good people vote for crappy stuff? And all of a sudden they just have a change of heart. I'll tell you how. They've been compromised. You're in some foreign country or at the bar, and then some attractive person comes up to you and giggling at your jokes and telling you how smart you are. Next thing you know, you're in bed with them in a motel room, And then lo and behold, a week later, somebody says, hey, somebody whispers in your ear, I got footage of you with some little young thing here in the, at this time. And I said, I need your help on this thing. And yeah, I think people are compromised. I think staff are compromised. I think, and this is $1 billion situation. If whoever has this information and this technology is leading as my daddy used to say, is in the catbird seat.
What kind of feedback do you get from your constituents, your district voters on this issue? Do they tell you, we don't care about this, do something else, or is it positive?
Surprisingly, I have a lot of people that are very prominent. When I had lunch with a lady, one of the top PR people in the state, for instance, she's a big believer. I was on an airplane, I fly to DC every miserable week, and it's just, and you walk by it used to be pretty cool. I think I'd flown a half a dozen times before I got elected to Congress. I've been to Washington twice, and now I can do it blindfolded. But I'm getting on the airplane, and there's this well-kept dude sitting on the right side there in first class, and he's kind of kicked back, and he's wearing, looks to me like a several $100 suit, and the nice shoes, the deal. And he says, Congressman, about that UAP issue. And I thought, here it comes, he's going to hit me between the eyes, oh, little green man, hey man, don't get probed, some kind of smart aleck thing. He goes, I really appreciate you having the courage to take that on. And I go, and I was kind of taken aback, and I go, you had an experience? And he said, yeah, I saw something sometime. Maybe sometime I'll talk to you about it. And I said, hey, that'd be great. And, I gave him my card. And I mean, this has happened time, if I can call you George, if that's all right, time and time and time again. And it's, I've just, and it's people that I would not suspect. A friend I worked with in the legislature years ago had an incredible experience when he was in the Navy on a ship. And then when he got back to shore, the suits came aboard and told him it was a national security thing not to talk about it. And you know what? They didn't talk about it, but it happened in the 50s. I mean, you all have seen that time more so than I have, but here's my fear, guys, is that I'm getting some clown that's he's a plant that's going to give me a false flag, and then I'm going to come forward with it to embarrass the UFO community. And so I'm very leery about exposing any of this, and especially my friends, because they've confided in me, and I get it. And I'm catching hell too. I get the calls every day, and I totally expect to see this in whoever runs against me in the next year or so.
Sure.
And it's going to come from high up, and I suspect they'll be well funded. But because I'm making a lot of people uncomfortable. You know what? That's when they fire at you, when you're over the target. And dadgummit, boys, we are over the target.
Absolutely. We are over the target. And I really appreciate, Congressman, the way that you've dealt with the issue. Of course, you will get slings and arrows. And welcome to our world. Of course, people are going to try to feed you disinformation. And so you need to vet everything. And, there's a couple people here you can vet stuff with. We've seen most of it. But here's the question I have for you. We have been talking personally for a long time now about these hearings coming up, the importance of having pilots and people with direct experiences come forward to the American public and say on record, under oath, what it is that they saw, heard, experienced, or know. Have you seen direct attempts to sabotage these hearings, which we have been talking about for quite a while now? Have you seen direct, or have you seen instead cooperation?
I have seen cooperation, but it's sort of like the government. One side saying that these don't exist, and the other side saying fund us so we can study it. I've seen both, which is kind of interesting. When I get it, and the best work I do is one-on-one. If I've got a problem with the Speaker of the House, I'll go see Kevin McCarthy and say, Speaker, I need 5 minutes. And you know what? He gives me 5 minutes because they realize I don't bother them with a bunch of garbage. And I've done the same with Chairman Comer. I've felt blowback. I've felt that that people are trying to move this thing off and to kill it, so to speak, and turn it into some sort of partisan thing. And then yet I'll go to see Chairman Comer and we have a one-on-one and we work it out. Because I think in their heart, they want to see this thing. They want to see the truth out as well as anybody else does.
What was that thing that we saw in the press just yesterday that Chairman Comer was saying that some people had failed their background test? Because I know, and you know, some of the people that should be testifying. What did that mean? Who failed a background test?
Well, I talked to Chairman Comer about that, and from what I understood was that was a mischaracterization, and I hope that's what was conveyed to me in the strongest way possible. And I believe, and the press does this a lot. They and it's not their own fault. They'll get some background information, and I think that if it wasn't a mischaracterization, some people got scared and went back underground. So that's that. So whatever the positive is that we're still having the dadgum hearing, and I don't know who's as I've stated, many of those people are going to be tried to be discredited. Somebody's got their ear, but again, I think that's a good sign that we're on the right track with this hearing. I don't know what you all think about it, but I think that the press asking those questions and saying those things at the right time, it couldn't have been a better thing for us.
Yeah. So just to be clear, and George has more for you, but just to be clear, the people that we know are going to be testifying have not failed any background test. That is not the case, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
The Senate Intelligence Committee unanimously passed this amazing piece of legislation that now goes to the full Senate, I guess, that targets special access programs, defense contractors who might be hiding recovered saucers technology. What would you say is the chance of that passing in the House? And does the House investigation and the Senate investigation, are you guys exchanging information, or their stuff is theirs and your stuff is yours?
Well, unfortunately, there is no liaison. I've said that. As in the state legislature, I was always the senator that would go back. I spent 4 years in the House and 12 years in the state Senate. I was always the one that went back and forth. I would go talk to the Democrat leadership and the Republican leadership. I'm a Republican, obviously, but I had that relationship. So I'm trying to develop that with the Senate, but there's just a whole different level of bureaucracy, and there is no real liaison. It's kind of a magical thing when a bill, you pass something in the House and then everybody cheers and pats you on the back. I'm like, well, what are we doing in the Senate? Well, that's up to them over there. I was like, well, hell no, it's not. We got to get this thing done. And, I get the old Burchett, that's not the way we've done things around here thing a lot. And I appreciate that, but I'm going to go after it. I'm going to talk to my people that are on those committees in the House to make sure, because there's enough people that think like the three of us do that will help push that. And they are very articulate in the manner that they speak and think. And I look forward to that fight.
Can you imagine an argument being made, and maybe it will be, that exposing reverse engineering programs of this unknown technology is a bad idea, that if we reveal it puts us in a bad position versus our adversaries in the world? Can you imagine an argument like that working with you?
No. Heck no. I've come from a pretty common sense upbringing. You see those rifles behind me? Those were, as my daddy would say, they were liberated from some Japanese soldiers that my dad fought against. And we're pretty plain spoken people. And I don't take that kind of thing very lightly. So no, I look, we need to get this out. I think there's no reason that it's not. The biggest fear I have is the Pentagon and the research people realize that we want it out and they're going to ask for billions of dollars in funding, where I think you all agree, just put out what you've got and let us decide. Put out the unredacted files, those crazy things that you and I have y'all three of us, and and George as a reporter, I'm sure you've seen these, Freedom of Information Act, which is really just bogus. It just allows them time to say, oh, wait, they want this stuff. Let's cover up all this stuff, and they white out everything. And And Jeremy, I know you and I have talked about this in the past as well. It's just very frustrating. Just give us the unredacted files. And I go back to the Kennedy assassination 60 years ago. Nobody's alive that was a part of that, and yet they still will not release it. It's power. I've been in. I'll give you an example of the psychology we're dealing with, and I'm sorry I pontificate too much, but and that's a big word for a Tennessean. So, but yeah, I'm with somebody in leadership a while back, and they were we were at a fundraiser, and they go, "Oh, the president wants to talk to me," and so they go back to the back room, and they get on the phone with the president. They don't allow me or anybody else to be in there. They're sort of the gatekeeper, you know, and it's this mentality that they were talking to the president and they didn't let anybody else. Well, you multiply that by 100,000, and that's what this UFO thing is. Yeah, they've got this information, and for whatever reason, they do not want anybody else to have it. There's an arrogance involved with it. There's a financial incentive, and there's corruption involved with it too. So, just turn it loose. I'm tired of waiting. The American public is tired of it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I feel that we have a right to know. The American public has a need to know, and I also feel that I personally, as a reporter and a journalist, have a duty to find out. Now, George and I have argued about that. What if the reality is so intense? You know, can people handle it? But I'm, for the record, I'm with you. Whatever the truth is, we're going to throw a UFO transparency grenade into the public. People have a right to know, a need to know. And again, I feel a duty to find out whatever the reality is, no matter how strange or bizarre or even scary it is, as long as we don't hurt our country and our advantage, the American public has a need and a right to know. Do you agree 100%?
100%. 100%.
Congressman, thanks for your time. We'll have to come see you in Washington, and maybe we'll come to Knoxville and hang out.
Man, I would dig that. I would, take y'all out, take you to a few of my haunts. We'd have a great time. Y'all could stay here at my house. We got a great big I got 60-acre farm, and you could help me shovel horse manure.
Sounds like an invitation we can't refuse.
Yeah, that's literally not what we do in Washington. I'm talking literal. We got horses and we clean stables. So, hey, I appreciate you guys. God bless y'all. And it's really an honor to be on with y'all. I follow y'all on the internet for years, and I never in my wildest dreams thought that we would be friends. So thank y'all.
Thanks, Congressman.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a champion for the UFO transparency movement. You have a lot of people that are grateful to you in the public for just being a voice for them, for representing them as a representative. So I just want to say thank you so much for what you've done and what you're going to do. And hell yes, we're having hearings and no one's going to stop it, right?
Right on. Right. If they stop us, we're coming to Knoxville, Tennessee, and we're going to have them here on the farm.
Right.
And I'll have my own security. Don't you worry about that. See y'all.
Thanks.
Thank you. See you soon.